We're going to prosecute because fraud was committed on a level that is so offensive to this country. Because justice is coming, we will denaturalize all these fraudsters and send them home.
We have a massive update in regards to the Somali fraud that's been running wild throughout Minnesota. The Attorney General, Keith Ellison, was just confronted for his alleged cover-up of this massive fraud, which is sending a shockwave throughout the entire Democratic Party. And Republicans, they're getting ready to denaturalize and deport every Somali national that is involved with this fraud, and a lot more that we're going to cover throughout today's video. Also, if you want daily immigration updates without the bias, without the agenda, please consider subscribing. Let us get into it, starting with this exchange between Senator Josh Hawley and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General.
The people who ran the Feeding Our Futures program came to you in your official office in the state capitol December 11th, 2021, and asked for your help in getting investigators off their backs. They complained to you for upwards of an hour about state investigators going after them, and they begged you to help them. And you agreed to it, amazingly. And we know you did.
That's not
because
true.
It's all caught on tape.
Yeah,
every single sentence is caught on tape. Here's what you said. Let's take a look. You said, it's not a question. You said to them, send me the names of all these folks who are investigating them. You said to them, send me their names. And I'll take that list and I'll call the person over at Education who is investigating them and say, what's going on? Why am I getting these complaints? Then he went on to say, I already have my team working on this. What day should we get together to discuss it again? You made pledge after pledge to them. You said, we've got to make sure this guy who's investigating them stops it. You said, you have my attention. I'm concerned about this. You said, let's go fight these people.
So that is Senator Josh Hawley, a Republican senator, confronting Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, pretty much saying the people that ran the Feeding Our Future program, the fraud program, where they scammed taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars, they went to him and said, hey, we're being investigated by people throughout the Minnesota government. What can you do, Attorney General, to help us? And what's being alleged here is that the Attorney General said, don't worry about it. Just give me the names of those people that are investigating you, and I'll take care of it. That is what's being alleged. And we even have the person that ran this entire fraud program came out and said Tim Walz and Keith Ellison knew exactly what was going on. And we have an article here from Fox News that says a Minnesota woman convicted in one of the state's largest fraud schemes alleged in a jailhouse interview that Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison were aware of widespread fraud well before federal prosecutors stepped in. And we even have an interview of this where she spoke out from behind bars. Take a look.
I have to believe that the governor's office and Keith Ellison's office were aware of this. They've said they were involved in helping the FBI. They've said they were made aware, but apparently I'm scary, so they couldn't do anything.
So Bach ran this nonprofit called Feeding Our Future. You might have heard of it. It was one of dozens convicted in this $250 million scam. You can see her mugshot there. Prosecutors say this group set up sham restaurants. They pretended they were making these meals. They got paid by the state for those meals, but they just pocketed the cash. And it's not just Bach. Whistleblowers told a congressional committee Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison there ignored warnings for years as millions of dollars and millions were stolen on their watch.
So what's being alleged here is that Governor Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, knew exactly what was going on here. And the fraudsters, they went to Keith Ellison and said, hey, we're being investigated. What can you do to help us? And what he did, he said, hey, we're going to squash it. We're going to do whatever we can to look out for you guys. And the state itself, people throughout Tim Walz's government, signed off on all these businesses. They didn't stop to check. They didn't stop to do inspections or anything like that to make sure these businesses were legitimate. So they were aware of these businesses, and top leaders throughout the Tim Walz government, the Attorney General, they knew allegedly that these businesses were fake. And when investigators throughout the state tried to look at these businesses, the fraudsters, they went to Keith Ellison and they said, hey, we're being investigated. What can you do for us? And now it's being alleged that the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, was paid by these fraudsters. Take a look at this exchange between him and Josh Hawley.
Why'd you take their money?
Why'd
you take their money?
I didn't.
You took $10,000.
No, that's a false statement.
$10,000 9 days after the meeting.
False statement.
You took $10,000. Here's what happened. They went to your office. They solicited money from you. They solicited help from you.
That's also wrong.
They came to your office. It was your official office. You met with them for 54 minutes.
No, they didn't.
They asked you for help. You pledged it to them, and they talked repeatedly about money. In fact, it's all they talked about.
That's a lie.
Money, 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 money. They said, we will put our dollars in the right place. We will support candidates that will fight to protect our interests. You replied, that's right. They said, if you are securing your donor base and securing your power base, you can act the way you want. You replied, money is freedom. They said the amount of money circulating, I'm reading the transcript, the amount of money circulating in our community today is powerful, and we haven't realizing it in a meaningful way. And you said, give me the specifics. And 9 days later, you took $10,000 from people who were then indicted. It's in your reports. Why'd you do it?
Sir,
was it worth it?
So what's being alleged here is that after that critical meeting where Keith Ellison met with these people and squashed those investigations, he received money from these people. You can't make this stuff up. The entire government in Minnesota is corrupted, from Tim Walz all the way down to the Attorney General, down to Jacob Fry. And they're protecting these Somali fraudsters, people who are ripping off the country. And there are public records that shows that the Attorney General, his campaign actually accepted money from these fraudsters. Take a look.
Some of those now convicted Somali fraudsters did donate money to Ellison's campaign, according to documents obtained by the Center for the American Experiment.
So it is crazy how the top law enforcement individual in the state of Minnesota is taking money from fraudsters. And it makes sense when you look at a lot of his policies. He failed to prosecute these people. A whole bunch of fraud went unnoticed under his watch. The Somali and Minnesota fraud is one of the largest, one of the greatest that this country has ever seen. And he did nothing to stop it. And here's Stephen Miller on that exact same point. Take a look.
Based on what we have found so far, we believe that the Somali fraud operation in Minnesota is the single greatest theft of taxpayer dollars through welfare fraud in American history. We believe that we have only scratched the very top of the surface of how deep this goes. The total bill, the total tab for this is going to be far beyond the numbers we've already seen reported. We believe the state government is fully complicit in this scheme, and we believe that what we are going to uncover is going to shock the American people.
So this is what happened when you import a whole bunch of people that doesn't contribute anything and you give them a whole bunch of handouts. This is exactly what happened. They depend on you. They depend on the taxpayers for everything. It is free money to them. So what you're going to have as a result, you're going to have a whole bunch of fraud because they're setting up fake businesses because they're getting a whole bunch of money. It's like when you're saying, hey, we're going to give money for daycare. We're going to give money for this. We're going to give billions of dollars. So that incentivize people that aren't paying taxes to set up these fake businesses and take that money for themselves, to buy luxury cars, to buy luxury homes, to send money back to their country of birth, Somalia, at the expense of the American taxpayer. Because when you give these people money, what it does, it helps concentrate that money to create power. And that money goes back to politicians as donation. So in a sense, it's a cycle. You're taking money from hardworking Americans and giving it to a group of people that in turn is going to use that money to elect people to look out for their interests. And it is evident because the Attorney General, Keith Ellison, he was asked about immigration. If someone should break the law, should they be deported? And he couldn't answer that question. Take a look.
Not a big shot lawyer like you. Just a quick question. If you enter the country illegally or you overstay a visa, should you be deported?
My simple answer is, sir, it depends.
Okay. So if somebody breaks into your home, should they be arrested for breaking and entering, or does it depend?
It's an entirely different scenario.
How's that?
Because immigration is essentially a civil, and breaking into my home is a criminal matter.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So if there's laws that should be enforced, so we shouldn't enforce civil violations?
We absolutely should enforce them.
But you just said that it's a civil matter, so it's different. So if somebody
you enforce civil matters.
So if somebody commits a civil infraction, it shouldn't be enforced?
It should be.
Okay, so they should be deported.
No.
So as I stated before, these politicians, they care nothing about the American people. They care nothing about the American taxpayers. What they care about the people that they import into their communities that are taking advantage of the average American taxpayer. That is who they serve. That is why they want immigration, because this thing only helped them because they take money from hardworking Americans, give to these people, and then they give it back to them as politicians whenever they're running. They collect taxes. They give it to immigrants and have immigrants give it back to them. And oftentimes, these aren't legal immigrants, and which is why immigrants typically lean more towards the Democrat side, because they get a lot of handouts. And if you look at this guy's record, Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, it is wild to say he's a top law enforcement individual of the state. The amount of fraud, the amount of corruption, everything that's been going on in Minnesota is just mind-boggling at best. And here's him being torched by another senator in regards to his abysmal record. Take a look.
General Ellison, under your watch, unfortunately, Minnesota has achieved the largest COVID fraud scheme in American history. Under your watch, those whistleblowers who brought attention to the fraud and waste in your state faced retaliation. Under your watch, billions of tax dollars intended for unemployment insurance, supporting hungry children, just as described, children with autism, providing housing for the most vulnerable, keeping small businesses afloat through COVID, and more were instead, all of those dollars were funneled away into fraudulent schemes. So last month in an interview with CNN, you were asked if your office has done enough to stop the fraud. And you responded, "Of course we've done enough." And this is a quote, "Of course we've done enough. And we're doing more every single day. This is a political matter. This is not a serious thing." Those are your words.
They are.
So as I said before, these people don't care about the American people. They're playing politics with people's lives, which is why you see so much chaos going on in these sanctuary cities, which is why you see so much crime, which is why you see so much fraud. And now the Republicans, they're starting to fight back. And what this Republican specifically outlined during this hearing is that, hey, we're going to start prosecuting people. It doesn't matter. We're going to start prosecuting politicians. We're going to start prosecuting fraudsters. And we're going to denaturalize all these fraudsters. Take a look.
People to get your way. And it's not 2020 anymore. The American people are over it. So what you're going to find is we're going to prosecute, and it has nothing to do with race. We're going to prosecute because fraud was committed on a level that is so offensive to this country. Your words that don't mean anything aren't going to stop what's coming. And I want you to take that back to George Soros and all these ridiculous funders you have to try to muddle the issue. Because justice is coming. And by the way, if I have it my way, we will denaturalize all these fraudsters and send them home. Mr. Chairman, I'm out of time.
So that is Senator Schmidt. And let me know in the comments below, do you agree with him? Do you think these fraudsters should be denaturalized and be deported? And that brings us to the end of today's Immigration Report. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Thank you.